Good evening and welcome to the Capitol Report on Entity Television. I'm Steve Lance. Former President Trump is speaking right now on the economy at a campaign stop in Battleground, North Carolina. We're going to bring you there. Let's tune in.
Under them, Social Security, Medicare, and other programs will collapse. No country can sustain what's happening right now. The millions of illegal aliens pouring into our country under a border, Azar, Harris, are coming from all sorts of places, from countries unknown, literally from countries unknown. And they, as I said, they're coming in from prisons and from mental institutions, and they're coming in as terrorists. We have more terrorists living in our country right now, and nothing good is going to happen from this. And now it's getting more and more violent. Just pick up the newspapers, turn on your television. People stabbed. A woman yesterday raped in New York, raped viciously. And when they said she was raped, you know what she said? They weren't trying to rape me. They were trying to kill me. They were trying to kill her. And he was a gentleman from a certain country I won't mention, happened to be in South America. But it's not South America. It's all over the world that they're coming in. It's not South America. They're coming from all over the world. Just this week in Coney Island, Kamala had two, think of this one, migrants. They came in, the Kamala, we call them the Kamala migrants, and they were arrested for rape of a 46-year-old woman, and it was a rough situation. There were 4 or 5 other situations over the last couple of days. Rape and murder, rape and beating, rape and something else, and sometimes just immediate killing. These people are brutal. These are people that came out of the toughest jails anywhere in the world, from all over the world. And we can't take them. No country can sustain it. No country. They all said I was wrong when I said that migrant crime will reach epidemic proportions. And now it's much worse than that. It's a lot worse than epidemic proportions. It's beyond control. We have a new category of crime. It's called migrant crime. And I think it's going to end up being the worst category of all. These people are tough. They're tough. They're mean. They're angry. And they shouldn't be in our country. And it's not going to work out well. The migrants that Harris let in are raping our women and hurting our children, and now Kamala wants to let them pillage Social Security and Medicare. That's what's going to happen. It will never happen. It will never even get close to happening if I'm in office, and I think you're going to have to put me in office, because there's never been anything like this. If Kamala wins, you will have mass amnesty and citizenship for all of the Biden-Harris illegals that poured into our country. If I win, you will have the largest deportation operation in American history, starting at noon on Inauguration Day, 2025. And, you know, I don't say that happily, because it's not an easy situation with so many people. It's not sustainable. But Dwight Eisenhower, General Eisenhower, President Eisenhower, he was very strong on borders. He felt that you cannot do this. The largest deportation operation we ever had was under Dwight Eisenhower, president. And he understood that it was not sustainable to have millions of people coming in. But what he went through is peanuts compared to what we're going through. Nobody's ever gone, no country, no border has ever gone through what we're going through, and they're destroying our country. The Kamala migrant invasion is also a major factor in crushing your wages and driving up the cost of health care and the cost of all of your goods. Millions of uninsured illegal aliens are getting billions and billions of dollars in free health care, paid for by American citizens on your medical bills. It's right on your medical bills. You know, when you hear this, you get angry because it shouldn't happen. But what happens to them, they come up in caravans. I think I came up with that name. But they have caravans of thousands and thousands of people, many, many criminals in those caravans. Very dangerous, unbelievably dangerous for women. The women in those caravans are just absolutely, it's horrible what happens. I'm not going to tell you now. It's horrible. It's horrible what happens in those caravans coming up. It's a rough journey. But they come up because we have very stupid people here that say, if you come up, we will give you health care, Social Security, medical, school. You know, our schools in a lot of places are not, you can't even go anymore. They've taken the place of our students. They have people sitting in chairs that don't speak a word of English, and they're taking the place of our young children. The hospitals, a person told me the other day from San Diego, they said they can't get into a hospital anymore. The hospitals are being occupied by the illegal aliens. Somebody's got to take care. They're being occupied. And the reason they're coming is because people like Gavin Newsom and people like Kamala are saying, come, come, it's the American dream, come. They're destroying our country. We can't do it. We can't let it continue. You're not going to have a country anymore. People like Scott, brilliant Wall Street people, they're right about what they say. And that's also common sense. I'll tell you, it's all about common sense. The Republican Party is the party of common sense. Kamala Harris wants to eliminate private health insurance. Does anybody have private health insurance?
And former President Trump giving a campaign speech there in Asheville, North Carolina. We'll continue to keep an eye on it. If anything new breaks, we'll be sure to bring that to you. In the meantime, the Harris-Walz campaign announcing a $90 million media spend targeting swing voters. President Biden will be joining Vice President Kamala Harris for their first campaign event together since Biden exited the race. We're going to go to NTD's Jason Blair, who has more.
Kamala Harris and Tim Walz are making an aggressive effort to win over undecided voters. On Wednesday, they announced what they are calling a historic sum of money spent on a short-term media campaign. The $90 million campaign will run the last 3 weeks of August on TV, radio, and digital platforms. The campaign said they'll highlight 4 key areas they think will resonate with their target audience, including Harris's background story, her, quote, commitment to fighting for the people, her focus on Americans' everyday needs, and the difference between her record and former President Trump's. And on Thursday, Harris and President Biden will hold their first campaign event together since Biden announced he would not seek re-election.
The president and the vice president will travel to Prince George's County, Maryland, to deliver remarks on the progress they are making to lower costs for the American people.
Biden released a statement Wednesday regarding the July Consumer Price Index. He said, quote, inflation has fallen below 3% and core inflation has fallen to the lowest level since April 2021. We have more work to do to lower costs for hardworking Americans, but we are making real progress, with wages rising faster than prices for 17 months in a row. Also on Wednesday, Republican vice presidential nominee J.D. Vance also commented on the state of the economy under the current administration.
Housing costs have doubled. Grocery prices are up 21%. A record number of Americans are working multiple jobs.
And Friday, Kamala Harris will be in North Carolina to give a speech in Raleigh. She is expected to highlight the details of her economic policy. Reporting in Washington, D.C., Jason Blair, NTD News.
So how are everyday Americans feeling about the state of the U.S. economy? NTD's Trinjing Newman was out at the National Mall to gather insights from consumers.
How do you feel about the general state of the U.S. economy?
Political. Purely political. It's all run by big dollars.
It could be better. Could be better.
We got a lot of people that are looking for work every day, every single day. They're looking for work, and they can't find work.
Inflation is being reduced. I think it's a very good time. It's one of the best economies in the world right now.
I build projects. I have townhouses I built, and I borrowed money from the bank. I started my loan at 5%. Now my construction loan's at 9.5%. I tapped out my home equity, started at 2%. My home equity is now at 11%. I'm just a middle-class guy, and it's hard for middle-class people to try to get ahead.
Buying a house that's 1,000 square feet should not cost $400,000 or $500,000 in Washington State.
Who do you feel has the better economic policy, Trump or Harris?
Honestly, I think both are really unorganized right now. I think they're focusing too much on social policy and aren't addressing economics enough.
My vote goes to Trump, 100%.
For the people, Harris.
Trump, For a while, I lived in Kentucky. I'm retired military. The coal miners on the eastern side of Kentucky were struggling because of policies. I'll just leave it at that. He reversed some of that.
A lot of stuff that he does that's great gets unnoticed simply because of his bedside manner. So again, to me, I do think Trump is the better businessman. One of the things that he's talking about that he's going to do is that he's going to change it to where they're not taxing Social Security. So again, that's something else that, I admire.
I know that Trump wants to put a 10% import tax. I can't see how that makes things cheaper, because that just means you have to pay 10% more.
Biden and Harris have done the best in maintaining and building a strong economy, as they say, from the middle class out.
These two major political parties, it seems like, have monopolized the election landscape. And I think that the American people need to know that you don't only have two options.
Now, there's a policy that both of them seem to agree with. It is the no tax on tip policy. What are your thoughts on that?
I didn't even realize it was being taxed in the first place.
I agree with both of them. Don't tax the tips. These guys make, you don't make any money, right?
It's a relatively small amount in terms of the overall economy, but it'll be very good for those people in that industry.
Just leaving it to consumers to pick up the prices doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I'd like to read more into it, but yeah, I don't like the tipping culture here anyways.
I get both sides, but it's technically it's income, so you have to go by the letter of the law, right? So, yeah, you'd have to tax it, I suppose.
I think both candidates pander. But when it comes down to who has the best policies.
Americans giving less to charities last year. That's according to a recent report by Giving USA and National Religious Broadcasters, otherwise known as NRB, and a forthcoming report by Infinity Concepts and Gray Matter Research finding a decline among American evangelicals. What's causing Americans to hold back, and what does this mean for the election? Joining me now to discuss the implication of these reports is Troy Miller. He's the president and CEO of the National Religious Broadcasters. Troy Miller, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me today.
It's great to have you back, Troy. So according to the Giving USA 2024 report, total charitable giving fell by, I believe, 2.1% from 2022 to 2023. Why do you think we're seeing this decline in donations?
Well, look, I think the economy, the shape of the economy is really starting to affect people's discretionary giving. When your rent is higher, your mortgage is higher, when your food is higher, gas is higher, you have to sort of think about what's important in your life, and people tend to go to the necessities that they survive. So I really think the biggest impact right now is the economy. Inflation is really hitting households.
To your point, Home Depot CEO saying that the lack in home additions and repairs is due to the economy, potentially. The report that we just mentioned also says that about 16% of donors said they will be giving less in 2024 due to the election. Is this part of a typical pattern that we see before an election, or could it be something else?
We do see giving go down, charitable giving in the church go down during the election cycle. People are concerned with policies that are going to be set, but 16% is higher than the average. We normally see it go down somewhere between 7 and 10%. So this is a little bit higher, and so I think you've got the political cycle on top of the economy, and that's really hurting charities right now.
In looking specifically at evangelical Christians, in the report, the number who gave to the church fell from 74% to 61% over the last 40 years. What are you reading into this? What are some of the factors that could be behind this decline?
Well, that decline, I think, has a lot to do with some of the factors just behind the direction of the culture in general. So you match that up with the American Bible Societies, that there are less people reading their Bibles today, less people are attending churches today on an average basis of just one time a week. And so those two things together, along with just a society that's really pushing a secular message, I think that's hurting the churches and hurting giving to the churches.
Americans are divided on whether Trump or Harris will help the economy and make life more affordable. How much of the election do you think will come down to the economy, and what do you see as the most effective message for either side?
Well, I do think that the economy is going to be one of the top issues that people are concerned with. I mean, from pastors that I talk to and ministry leaders around the country, that's the number one thing they're hearing from their audiences out there is it's all about the economy. So policies are going to play a key role in that. I think at least our surveys of what the church thinks about, the church is very skeptical about this current administration, about how it's run the economy and has put a lot of blame on this. So I think they're looking for somebody who's going to do policies that are a lot more family friendly, friendly to the middle class today. And the message has to be, look, we understand you're hurting and we're going to work on this. We're going to work on energy pricing. We're going to work on housing pricing. We're going to work on food cost and medical. That has to be a message that comes across. It has to be the most important thing the platforms are thinking about.
Troy Miller, really appreciate you joining us. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
And coming up, Ukraine saying it's advanced deeper into Russia's Kursk region. Tensions rise as Moscow says the offensive is putting negotiations on pause. What the U.S. says about the situation and the possibility of peace. That and more after the break.